You turn into cannabis legalization news to see what's in the packages that we've gotten. We got some viewer mail for you. And then the Hempire strikes back. Is THCA hemp or not? We're going to discuss that. There's some shit out of Florida that you ain't going to believe. You're going to be like, Florida. Oh, my goodness. And so what is this? Well, don't mean to keep you in suspense any longer than you need. Oh, I dropped it. So you have to be kept in suspense just a little bit longer. It's that time of the month again. No, not that time. This time, we have a new Fat Nugs magazine. Pretty stoked about it. And so I will not be reading Fat Nugs magazine. Have they been on the show? I think they've been on the show perhaps before. Let's get on to the show and talk about our main story of the week. Decent week in cannabis legalization news, kind of. Is THCA hemp? Miggy, let's get you on and do our trending news.
Hey, happy Sunday.
Happy.
Nice.
It's a sports episode of Fat Nugs magazine.
We've had
sure
about
that.
And we've lots of sports.
I used to smoke weed before like swim practice when I was in college. It was great.
Oh yeah, dude. Schwarzenegger used to smoke weed before he worked out. Do you know?
Yeah. Working out with weed's pretty good. But what about THCA? Do you think that's hemp?
Dude, I love your I think it should be a term of art, high hemp.
High hemp. Yeah, that's just branding. That's Donald Trumpian branding, who, of course, Donald Trump did not invent branding. Somebody else did. But that's why I would say high hemp, because it has the H's that start, and it's only 2 syllables, which is pretty good, and it's only 2 words. So it's really, really short. But the DEA has come out again and said that THCA does not meet the definition of legal hemp as Congress weighs cannabinoid recriminalization in a farm bill. That's our lead story. Came out of Marijuana Moment on May the 27th. The DEA has dropped some type of memo with this. Let's see if I can find it in the links. It's all interlinks. But they've released something else, and it's Terrence Booz, who is the chief drug and chemical evaluation section. And so, like, the DEA is an administration, which means that it's a bureaucracy. It literally is a bureaucracy when you think about it. It's the DEA.
Well, you know, we talk about politics, and this is kind of like the whole, like, that's how we got where we're at here, right? Politics. This is a thing. Bureaucracy is name of the game. Like, we all think government is a long conundrum, but this whole THC, like you talked about with the hemp bill coming up, right? There's many states right now, you know, trying to pass legislation against hemp itself, right? And individual little entities trying to, you know, your state, Florida.
Well, when there's a vacuum at the federal level, this is what will happen. And so there's a vacuum at the federal level, and so the states are going to do their thing.
Now this is going to stop the gas station weed, right? This is like all your.
This would stop gas station weed. It should.
Yeah.
I mean, like it not only should stop gas station weed, it should stop all of that crap. Let's see here. There's that letter. I'll blow it up. There we go. Okay. And so this is not being shared because I was recording a video about things before I got in here.
Stay tuned
that's
for
why
things.
I did not. No, it's good things. It has to do with the rulemaking process that we are undergoing right now. That rulemaking process is in effect until July 22nd. And so we'll have a video up and then a copy and paste rule that comment that you can give. But this is the letter, June 9th, 2023. You know, that's not really news.
Make it bigger?
But that's kind of how like news does. You know, they reiterated their letter from this 2023 letter that they put out, where they said that it is not considered hemp, and that's the letter from a year ago.
Have you made your comment yet for Schedule 3?
Yes, but I have not published it. I have not posted it.
Oh, okay.
And so I have it done. That's why I was doing that video. Now that video will go to editing. I'm going to A/B test the editors to see, because like there's budgets and you know, KPIs and ROI and all this other crap that you have to do when you're a business person. So I'm going to give it to 2 different editors and be like, okay, go, and then see what the turnaround time is and also how well it like looks. But
yeah, but
you know,
this is a fine example of the dichotomy of me and Tom, right? Like when it comes to like, because you are an activist, dude. Like I know you don't say you are. You're the lawyer that we go
right.
to, but like how I know you is through like Hogue Rome, right? Or
yes. And we will give away one of those books,
but
and also one of these books later.
Yeah.
Not the Fat Nugs magazine. I'm going to read that, but Farmer Tom did send us a whole bunch of rolling papers.
Yes.
So after 420 somewhere, we will give it to the members because we like to help our members out. And then if one of them wants to tell us where to mail the stuff, we'll mail the stuff.
Also, shout out to Farmer Tom because my house, I don't roll. I pack bowls. I don't roll and travel as I used to.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
But the people who do roll in my house, they all like them. They all say they burn well. It all's a good smoke. So good, because I'm always worried about putting my name on something. Like when that time comes for the branding, like we are about to be a store. You know, like that's an important part.
We can go with the name Brax because Brax is kind of like McDonald's. It just needs to sound somewhat wholesome, and so like calling it Miggy's. Kind of then you just it may not be as disambiguated as what I like to call it. That's one of the reasons why I make up all these names as opposed to Tom's Awesome Shit. I mean, one of my future brands might be Tom's Awesome Shit, but
well, back to so like how we got to this circle of weirdness is how I was going to talk about the SEO. You're talking about how you just did a video in the comments and how you're very thorough and you're going to try and get the message out as much as you can. Whereas I'm still even trying to gather the information, and then once I do, I'm just gonna poop it out and say like, hey everybody, like I did my live recently with the prisoner because I worked on his time, you know, like ideally I would do videos that were like pre-made and get more hits and stuff, but like
you have to
if that's your thing, right? Like that's
not
my thing.
No, that's like literally everybody's thing. Like anybody who's popular on YouTube, unless they're like opening boxes of stuff, and even then they probably have it storyboarded, but like you have to have a script and then you have to practice it and then you have to like read the script and then you have to like edit it because there's some stuff that you've just written it and you haven't said it out loud, so it reads different, and so that was one of the things. And so I'm reading my stuff and you guys are like binging me in the Slack channel, and so like I record on my iPhone, and so like I have not turned it to do not disturb, so I had to. But look at that. If THCA is illegal, it would only impact the intoxicating hemp industry. No, it's not that it's illegal. It just makes it marijuana. There's a difference, right? Well, and so that's what they're kind of getting at.
Is the hemp bill? Let's just say if it comes through the way it is, will that affect also CBD markets? Will that affect the lotions?
That is part of the public comment that I'm going to have, and then I'm going to give some to the hemp people. It's like usually I give them the business. I can feel bad about themselves, but they need to get picked up. And so like the DEA is implicated in the farm bill as well for testing the cannabinoid hemp. And so it appeared what they're doing is if you're going to be growing it for rope or fiber, you're going to be different inspections and harvesting protocols. And if you're growing it for the cannabinoids, which 95% of them are, you would have DEA show up. And so if the DEA is going to be also the regulator of weed, I don't necessarily like that, but that's how everything's written currently. And so I don't think we're going to get our own office of cannabis, like the OCM, federal OCM. Right. At least not first. The DEA will probably be doing it first. And so the international compliance. And so like, if you read the notice of proposed rulemaking and how the OLC, and so like that's what the video is all about. Like here's the OLC slip opinion, here's what the rule comments are. You know, this is how it's probably all going to play out. And so then you would have the DEA pick up like hemp, and so you would get licensed, or you would have to get your hemp tested because they also do have to get a license to grow it. And then the DEA would be testing it. It's like, oops, this is marijuana. Transfer it to the Schedule 3 entity in your state. And then after that, so after there's Schedule 3 regulations for how to be compliant with international law and to register with the DEA and track all the crop and sell all the crop and all that stuff, That still doesn't fix that it's illegal at the federal level, because the
Right.
FDA then has to issue its own rulemaking. It has the authority to do it. And so it's just like chicken and egg type of thing. Like the FDA isn't going to change how they would introduce cannabis as a Schedule III substance into their framework until after it's a thing. And so right now it's not a thing, but then what the rulemaking should do is then have the Attorney General request that the FDA, upon it becoming effective, review its rulemaking authority for FDCA compliance. And so that's the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act compliance. So then you can have international shit. However, everybody makes money right now, and they don't make money in the future.
Well,
so they don't want to think about how it's going to change.
You know, when you talk like that, when you do the whole civics lessons, I'm going to make this image for you, put your face on it. For people who don't see it, it's the always
Holy
sun.
crap. That was the lawsuit that I've gotten myself in, and I'll talk more about that next week after the filing is public record. But it is just great. And so we'll see if we win that case. But it's for social equity. So if I don't win, I'm not getting paid.
Well, you've helped lay out like my understanding. It's always been a civics lessons talking to you, right? Like having my experience in the activism and trying to fight what's right or whatever, making change. I never thought about like you always think like the president could just sign a thing and it'll be done, right? Like, but it has to be Congress. But until it's Congress gets their shit together, right? Like just because 100 years ago, America, the whole time frame they want to make great again was actually a very one linear racist society where it was top heavy. They were able to motivate like different, America as a whole was predominantly that like white bureaucracy type thinking where it's like, hey, drugs are bad. We're going to control.
No one else mattered, or they would just murder them. But then
that's
you can also look
American.
at population demographics. But yes, it was way less multicultural than it is now.
There we go. And then that's part of the problem that we're having now. But the great thing about America, though, too, is the bureaucracy of things, because this is how we're going to get change inevitably, right? It sucks. Like, I mean, we're so much further with the states first, and now federally with actually like actual real bureaucracy happening, because that's how this change has happened with Schedule III. You know, I'm still working on my comments, but that's just going to be another step. And then with the cannabinoid, with the hemp bill coming up, I mean, eventually these two are going to merge, right? But we do have to.
That's why we need them to. We need, well, again, it's the cannabis plant, right?
Right.
And then you have this line in the sand where it becomes an intoxicant, and you're going to regulate it like it's Schedule III drug, or like it's a Schedule I drug, when in the sense of like synthetic cannabinoids, which the vast majority of hemp-derived cannabinoids are, except for THCA. That was natural, but it makes the thing marijuana. It's hilarious. But that's kind of where we're at. There is some good news out of the federal. You know, let's sneak this one in before 420 somewhere. Oops. That is the show notes. Let's get that over to there. Okay. Lawmakers push to let the FDA, oh my goodness, to let VA doctors recommend medical marijuana and end THC testing for federal job applicants. It's coming. It's coming, everybody, but it only is coming if it's not a Schedule I substance. And so we got to get it out of Schedule I. And if we get it out of Schedule I and it's nationwide medical cannabis, well, you would have the VA doctors recommend medical marijuana. There would be ending of THC testing for federal job applicants. We get so many truckers that watch the program. And I'm like, keep your eyes on the road. But thank you for watching. And
with the VA, though, also producer Will, he's gotten through ketamine treatments through the VA, and being Schedule III, ketamine Schedule III, this would be an opportunity for the VA to, you know, be an option for soldiers. So I find it huge. And I hope we didn't lose Cole.
No, he probably just had to step away right now. But like that would be just enormous. It's because remember when you had to lie to your federal government to tell them that you'd never used weed so you get in the Navy?
Well, exactly. That the what prohibition has enabled between the lying and there was never a path for Frank Rogers, who I talked to in prison, arrested in 2012, been in jail since 2012. Never a regulatory path. There was never a chance to even think of it. Right? Like that's why I look at these present day trappers online. I'm like, y'all
You guys got it easy. You just call it THCA and sell it on the internets. You go just kush.com. I'm going to start selling pounds. Nice. Hey, it's 20 past the hour, which means it's 4:20 somewhere. The 4:20 break is brought to you by Collateral Base. We will see you after the bumper. That's right, Collateral Base. We're not taking clients. Well, actually, we do have space for Kentucky, not for dispensaries. We're not taking dispensary clients anymore in Kentucky, but we would consider a cultivator or a processor application in Kentucky. Fascinating stuff. We're going to talk more about it out there. And I am going to post something for you, the members. You'll get Farmer Tom's pre-rolls. You'll get my old book, which is starting to become out of date, finally, after 14 years, especially with Schedule 3 marijuana. It's no longer unconstitutionally prohibited. It's just regulated as medicine. And you'll also get Legalization Nation, a Box Brown book. That's become a member. And if you are a member, I will post a picture of these things and say, first person that emails me their address, and I'll give you an email address to email me, you win. And so the last time somebody won, it went out to Minnesota.
Nice. Hey, with that, we should probably bring on our guest.
Let's bring on our guest and continue to talk about the news of the week.
Cole.
Go on.
How are you, Cole? Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I love this show. It's my favorite cannabis legalization news show. So
we are the #1 cannabis legalization podcast on YouTube.
America.
But also, not only that, you can get us wherever you find your podcasts. The problem is our podcast is longer than the average commute in America of 25 minutes.
Is that what it is? No, mine's an hour and a half one way. I don't know where the hell you're going to work, dude.
I live in Peoria, Illinois. You can get anywhere in 20 minutes.
Fucking too many people over here in Seattle. Hey, Cole, so what you...
Okay, how many people do you see right there? How many?
Oh, that's lovely. It's a beautiful day.
One.
It's a gorgeous.
One motherfucker. One fucking guy walking on the street out there. That could be you. You could be living large in Peoria, Illinois, where the housing is about $100,000 less than whatever you're paying where you're living.
Oh, guaranteed.
Like our average house is like $173,000.
Gives me heartburn.
It would be like a $400,000. Actually, oh my goodness. And so like that house that you live in, Miggy, what is that going for now in Seattle? Like 500 large?
If it were to sell, probably 6. Yeah.
600? Yeah. Oh my God.
I can't afford to live here.
You could buy it for $120,000 in Peoria, Illinois.
Dude, no, it gives me nausea thinking of the spirit. Like I always thought about moving to Kentucky or something too. Like, but the wife, I gotta like bring her with me.
That's kind of how wives work, not for Warren Buffett, but she left him. She did.
Shit.
My favorite thing about Peoria, Illinois is not only its rich comedy history, but the fact that they have been in a feud with comedian Shane Gillis, who said that Peoria, all you can do is go to the mall. There's nothing to do in town. And it's just a fun fact, folks. Google it.
Yeah, that's terrible.
I'm going to have to, we're going to have to do some response videos on cannabis legalization news. Maybe like Shane Gillis will be like, who the fuck is this guy? And I'll be like,
get those likes.
Right. Well, nobody will care. That's the thing, if you want to get in the paper in Peoria, Illinois, open a food restaurant, which is pretty much any restaurant is a food restaurant. But anybody
or a bar.
Open a restaurant or a bar.
That's hysterical. Hey, Cole, man, Cole has a podcast himself, the Cole Memo, and you guys, this is because we're talking about the whole hemp thing. And you guys are kind of like doing a mini version of America over there because you got the hemp bill arising as well. Also, Florida too. Like, what's up with all these states? Texas is doing like anti-hemp.
Texas is doing it.
Yeah.
What do you think's going on with this, Cole?
I mean, I think that people are just trying to crack down on what some people perceive to be as like a public health issue, and I think there are merits to that concern. I think it's also like in the legal states. It really just seems like, in Florida and in Illinois particularly, it's less about public health and more about maintaining like a limited licensed market.
Not necessarily. Like Florida and Illinois is a it's hilarious. I mean, like, you look at the two of them and you compare them, and it's funny. And so we have Florida news. If you're tuning in from Florida, thank you. But your governor is nuts. And so your governor would rather you not legalize regular weed and to mess with that from getting legalized. He will not issue the medical cannabis licenses that the application window closed 13 months ago for. And he may veto the hemp regulation bill. So these hemp regulation bills, I think that's one of the reasons why in Illinois they kicked it. It's like, well, feds are doing it. Why don't we punt? Because like they were, I'm not sure if Cole, maybe you can remember, but there was the hemp bill in Illinois may have been effective immediately. Did you think it was effective immediately, or was it supposed to be effective after like 6 months? Do you recall?
There were, from what I understand, there were parts that were effective immediately, but then there were parts, like, if you noticed, there were objections early on from like the Craft Brewers Guild and some beverage makers, and they were able to, from what I understand, strike a deal to basically like delay that effective date so that they could liquidate their stock.
Right. And so I can do that. Like, continue to sell the products that we think are terribly, terrible, dangerous, bad things, and you're not doing the good stuff. But I don't want you to take a total loss. I don't want you to just ban it like it's TikTok or something.
Hear me out here. Maybe Kim Rivers hasn't paid off DeSantis enough, right? Like the vape people have the big money in Florida.
Pretty sure Truly, like Kim Rivers screams Republican. I never like looked at Kim Rivers
she does.
And been like, yeah, she's voting for Biden. No, and so they are bankrolling that in Florida. It's just that DeSantis is fucking nuts, and so like he doesn't like weed, and so that's the thing, guys. Remember, election in November. That party that you may elect because you love Donald Trump will come to town, and they took away a woman's right to choose. You're going to take away your fucking weed and give you some shitty Delta 8 and be like, there you go.
Well, who's still at it? Did you guys see here? Check this out. Let's see if I can share this. Jeff Sessions just had a little tweet there. Reclassifying marijuana ignores science and endangers our youth. Like, this is not 2020. This is not 26. This is not 1980. This is last week.
What about like just the regular stuff then with Schedule 3? I mean, then so like reclassify marijuana. All right, that's fine. So all this hemp shit. So all this synthetic weed that you're smoking, or just like weed that you're calling hemp because you've tested it and that's how the weed plant works. Like many strains, especially if you keep it cold, especially if you harvest it, especially if you test it how you're supposed to test it, will be considered hemp.
Well,
crazy.
Perhaps DeSantis also, there's that ignorance that all three of us understand here, that cannabis, hemp, same plant, right? Like 0.3% is defining this good time versus gel time, right? Like it's not sensible.
Stupid. That's wholly stupid. And then you have like two factions, and so like they're still regulating it. Like, you're in China and you're in the United States. Like it's the same plant, and so that's one of the things that if you could just kind of pick it up and make it a spectrum, where you're like, here it is. Here's how the plant's regulated. Oh, you want it to do this? Is it this? Do you have this license? Oh, you don't. You can't do it.
Yeah. And with all due candor, I'm definitely not tuned into the Florida scene. And you actually did remind me that DeSantis I remember seeing reports about him being concerned that cannabis legalization would be on the ballot because it brings out more Democrats. I believe I remember him saying that. And, you hear that concern on the Republicans a lot. So maybe I spoke a little bit out of turn and with regard to Florida and their motivations behind it, because like you just pointed out, maybe it's his fuck you to the marijuana industry, right? The legal marijuana industry in Florida. But in Illinois, at least, I really do think the debate seems to be about limited licensing, because hemp growers, at least that I've talked to, want to just comply with the same regulations, but
they'll all go broke.
I agree if they actually had to follow all the regulations to a T, like when you guys open up your shop.
That's how it works.
Well,
right.
question.
No,
So they'll all go broke, and so it'll be hey, guy from Michigan, if you're tuning in, I know you got the invoice. Fucking pay it.
Well, isn't this is
that's what it'll become. And so then we'll have California, then we'll have Michigan, then we'll have Oklahoma. You have an industry that's just ripping people's shirts off their backs and ripping through a lot of money. And so, like, that's the thing. When you have a limited market and you have a high regulatory compliance, it's not like you're just allowed to start becoming a bank or like running a lottery or a casino on the gosh darn street corner. That's why the limits make sense. And so now we're going to have a federal layer of that to get in compliance with our international obligations under Article 23 of the Single Convention of Narcotics from 1960, which is fucking nuts compliance. Well, so you're going to have this thing of nuts compliance to be able to be in Schedule 3 unless Congress does their job, but they ain't gonna because they're worthless.
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying, though, the difference between the proposal that just shot through the Senate and died in the House and the proposal that never really even got called to vote, LaShawn Ford's proposal, which not all hemp growers agree on because there's the taxing component, which to your point it's a huge tax. So not everybody supports that, but it is a competing proposal. And the only difference from what I can tell is that it was open license. Versus
it was open licenses, but then I think it was higher THC too.
A question for you guys is the hemp market in Illinois for people like Cole. I mean, you're actually talking to people who are hemp farmers, right? Like I have this vision of hemp farmers all being from Virginia or Minnesota.
But I thought it was the difference between 2 milligrams and 5 or 10 milligrams. And so the difference between a 2 milligram dose, I thought with the newest bill in Illinois, the one that got shot down or like punted, I thought they couldn't really sell THC. And so that it was going to shut that down. But then with LaShawn Ford's bill, I thought it was low dose, more like a Minnesota style. And I'm fine with the Minnesota style. Like, hey, get a license, get tested, pay the same taxes. Is it unlimited? Sure. Good luck with that. And so the hemp industry will be dominated by 3 people because you won't even be able to have an oligarchy like you would with the limited licenses in states like Arizona, states like Washington, states like Illinois.
Doesn't the hemp farmer though? I mean, you guys correct me though that they have a bigger option though because they can sell their stuff across state lines, whereas like they're not limited to just a state market, right?
If I could just really quick, the reason I'm a fan of hemp is I actually am not a huge fan of Delta 8. I've tried it, but not a huge fan of it. But it seems to upend like all of my little complaints about legalization. Like, for example, the limitations on how much you can possess. I feel like that's arbitrary. The dosage caps. Like I've got this 50 milligram soda right now that came from River Bluff, who also has a social equity license, but they sell these hemp beverages just, as you said, right through the mail. And like, there are all these little different things that are great when cannabis is not treated like when it's not treated like a controlled substance. That like, I guess the bottom line is, for this, it's afforded me a level of freedom and choice as a consumer that I have never had in Illinois, and that's why I'm.
Well, and so like if we can get it to Schedule 3 and get everybody licensed, you're going to have that, but it would be a safer version of the hemp thing that has no rules. There's no rules on the side. No, with the hemp, it's just the production side. Here it is, test your product for THC potency compliance 30 days before harvest. End of fucking regulations. And so now we're going to start talking about how to regulate marijuana, which is this delineation line somewhere out there with the rulemaking process that's happening right now. It's watershed. It's huge. I think we're going to have an interim final rule because it's so big. It's not just going to skip to the rule.
The state, though, as they define it, like as you're talking about, there's going to be one market because the hemp person can sell their stuff interstate, right? And I don't know what, because you guys have been getting their stuff like through Minnesota, and that's the unfortunate part about like not having sourcing, understanding where you're getting your stuff from. Like Cole, you've been a big probably buying stuff online. Like I'm coming from the old school where it's like it's scary to do that shit, and so like everything I've gotten through. Now I buy it from a store, which I know has that little checks and balances regulation bullshit. But like
good prices. Washington State is high quality and good prices. You
Still
kind
high
of are like
taxes
in a
in the
Michigan, extremely high taxes, but you're kind of like in a Michigan. But if Michigan hadn't gone nuts, and so like they can still, you can go broke in Washington State, but it's a lot easier to go broke in Michigan.
Sure, but like when we open our store, right? Our competition's not going to be the hemp farmer, and it's not our competition is going to be New Era, right? That another store within the area,
or New Era would be on our shelves.
Okay, I mean I don't know the market yet.
So like we would be buying from them.
Neat.
Yeah, we just won't buy from GTI. It's right.
Oh, and that's the next thing I wanted to ask is that because Cole's been going on a little campaign there about like what's going on with like the regulation over there as far as patients, and is it a homegrown? What are they against? What's the fuck going on over there?
I mean, they're proponents of limited licensing, and this is like just another example where they're kind of narrowing the scope. Tom, tell me
even
if you agree.
Even limited.
Yeah, it's like they're like getting it down to that granular level.
Do you know what Miggy, people tuning in? Do you know what a medical patient in Illinois is worth on an annualized basis to a GTI or to one of the companies that has one of the only 55 state of 12.5 million people, 55 medical dispensaries in it?
Imagine, see, a patient's probably buying enough for a month, maybe 2 weeks or whatever. I mean, a couple $100, maybe $1,000 a month.
No. Well, yeah, it's a couple $100. It's that on an annualized basis, it's approximately $3,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like, so it just seems to me a lot of these companies are very narrow-minded when they do their fighting for policy, right? Because the recreational market, they don't want to have a fair competition. That's what they don't want. They don't want to have like, hey, it's your chance to have a store like we are going to be trying. Like, it's not an easy thing. You win this fucking thing, and you're not like, woohoo! I still go to work. Like,
and Tom, that's the thing I don't understand. I want to be clear. I understand why, from an economic purpose, like as an operator, when you look at states like Michigan, Oklahoma, and Oregon, why you wouldn't want that as an operator. But I guess it makes economic sense to me, I guess is what I'm saying. And if I were in your shoes, I would think the same thing. But I guess what I always try to ask people is like, what makes cannabis any different from, and I'm actually kind of stealing a point that you still taught me, because I credit you for radicalizing me. What makes cannabis any different from restaurants? We accept the fact that 80% go out of business in the first 5 years. Why are we so hell-bent on protecting cannabis operators?
Restaurants weren't illegal 5 years ago. So there's that aspect of it. And then there's the aspects of it where you go like, we protected alcohol as well when it became legal. And it took years and decades for it to open and change its market dynamics. So what's your policy goal here? Is your policy goal to be able to make stable revenues for the state and for the people that have the actual licenses that need to comply with those regulations? Or, so what are you really trying to do with your scheme that you have,
And that's where I feel like legalization like diverged. Like I spoke to Representative Carol Ammons, and she said like the grassroots got us here, and really all our problem was ever the rules, the fact that cannabis was illegal, and now that it's legal, we have all these different rules, and it's like I didn't ask for all these rules. I want a problem with the rules,
But that's fine. But you're talking about selling a highly regulated drug. Whether like you have a personal relationship with it and you realize that a lot of that's bullshit, 85% of the American people don't realize that's bullshit, and so to them it's a drug, and they know it in a certain way. And so if your policy goal is like changing those things and getting to somewhere where it's going to be normalized, you have to figure out how you're going to regulate it, and it's going to be the most restricted during that interim period before it can get into more of an open but if it's just like owning a brewery, it would be more like owning a brewery or owning a distillery. Distilleries were restricted from ownership for many years, for decades. And so if owning some type of cannabis business is akin to owning a distillery or a liquor store, it's regulated. It's going to be regulated, and then it's regulated on the perception. So alcohol, welcomed in every household event or much more social acceptance than weed, much more, by orders of magnitude. And so until that inverts, you're going to see a highly regulated and therefore very expensive to run. And therefore, if you want that industry to be able to get through it, limiting the license to make it more of an oligopoly is the way to do it, as opposed to, the problems that you see in the open market states.
Part of the problem too is the ignorance of even just the end consumer, right? Like, I used to, as a young activist, I'm just legalized weed, and weed is what it is, and marijuana, cannabis, pot, whatever you want to call it. Apparently, you call it hemp now too, right? Like, early on with Jack Hare and all the other early activists, hemp, hooray, hemp is always a thing. I never really understood, like, hemp is the fucking t-shirt, hemp is the, but it turns out it's the same plant, and that's the breaking the barrier, because right now your hemp growers are getting away with, like, not they're doing the interstate marketing, or interstate commerce, and then the weed people who want to just be in the weed cannabis industry, and for that part is weird, right? Like to even get in the business is a lot of money, right? When I was selling quarter pounds, I never thought about, like, having a business, a brick and mortar. Like, what would it be involved, like a restaurant or whatever? And it's fucking, I'm gonna have an HR. We're gonna have fucking books being done. We're gonna have fucking meet and code. Like, there's a lot. As a technician who works in maintenance, I understand that side of things. Like, for me,
is the person from the IDPFR going to drop into the licensed hemp peddler? Where's your SOPs? Where's your SOPs for that? Yeah,
that was one of my concerns with House Bill 4293 was that it did give local law enforcement the capacity to, I guess, stop by these places. I remember the Cannabis Regulation Oversight Officer, before this bill had ultimately come out, said that they need the capacity to, like, go in. And I always, like, another thing that, you taught me on a different topic, but it's funny how it relates to this. The first few words from the CRTA, I'm going off the top of my head, is in the interest of allowing law enforcement to focus on, like, property crime and violence, we, the General Assembly, find that cannabis should be regulated like alcohol. And I guess my thing is, I feel like if we're going to allow law enforcement to go into these shops to basically enforce limited licensing, it would seem that it's against the spirit of the law. But you could also argue, though, that it's directly in the spirit of the law because limited licensing is a feature of the law, right? So it's like, it goes both ways, to be kind of candid.
Enforcement, but regulation, because you have health code inspectors go to a restaurant. It's all kind of the same shit, right? Like,
yeah,
if you can get away with not having,
here's the regulation, here's the regulatory load. We know we're going to be costing you $100 a year, and so that's why we're going to limit the market and make it more of a secure cash flow. And then it becomes well, let's limit the market even more. So I have to report next quarter to the public, and I want to beat on earnings. I want that medical patient that is worth $3,000 of top line earnings a year here, not over there, here. And so there's a line somewhere where the regulation is there to ensure that you have a system, because of the regulatory load you're going to put on them, that they can shoulder that burden and then hopefully still have some left over. But then you have that other layer where it's like, now it's capitalism. And so they're trying to take as much market share by any means necessary. That'll happen if it's an unlimited license state, though. I think, well, actually, a lot of those operators can't clean up because they don't operate well enough. But the ones that can, they cannibalize their profit margins, and they try to, like in an Amazon case as well, not the biggest profit margins. Grocery stores, the same thing. Mm-hmm. So you're going to turn the entire industry to grocery stores, which is kind of cool. And so then you're going to have terrible jobs, in the sense that being somebody who works as a bud tender would be no different than being like a busboy or a waiter. Mm. Yeah. Well, all of these are at play. Like, what are your policy goals that you're going for? Well, based on this number of licenses and this demand and this much taxes, we think it would look like this. Or if it's going to be complete free market capitalism, cool. This will be like instead of getting your first job as flipping burgers, you were flipping buds, and that's what it is. And so, like, if you want that for your job force to be, shitty first entry job, have an unlimited state.
Well, a good market would, but see, this is the difference also of a business oriented thinking person. Like Tom is. That's why I love this guy, because he will tell you, he will dry fuck you to be like, you're gonna get fucked. Like this is like this. That's kind of like what business is about sometimes, right? Like there has to be a loser, unfortunately, sometimes. But the farmer doesn't think about their investors, right? A farmer doesn't think about capital gains and all the other thing. The farmer thinks like, oh, what's my profit on selling what I got? And then, and that's the business side of things. This is what I was trying to lead to, is like, eventually these are going to merge. But I was thinking, instead of playing name that strain, we'll play, is it hemp or is it marijuana?
No, this grower isn't going to be fucking around with hemp. Let's do some name that strain. This is some good people here. Well, let's bring Cole in, because I some more water, and then you guys can.
So what up, Cole? So purple. Let me give you a little hint here. What's it say? Exploring, understanding. I don't want to give the name. Nitty gritty origin. Here we go. It has an intriguing origin story that adds to its allure. It is a cross between two renowned strains, Zookies and Biscotti. That might be enough for half of you right there. Shit. I'm telling you, man. So close. How good are you at name streaming there, Cole? I mean, you smoke a lot of weed too.
I get it wrong every week. Every week I tune in.
Tom, I mean, I love it that he wants to do this, because he grows and he sees the plant the way I'm more of a consumer, where like, I love look at the plant. I just don't really, I like notes. Let's see. So this is more than its appearance and THC content, the strain also offers a complex and captivating flavor profile that delights the senses with hints of sweetness, earthiness, and touch of citrus. Blah, 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 tantalizes the taste buds. The unique combination of flavors. Let's see if we got it. So close. I like Donkey Brother. That's a good name. But I'm so bad at this game. I love the purple though. That's a thing. It's not OG Kush.
No, it's not. But what you got to do is you got to tell them who the parents are, and then you got to tell them who the breeder is.
Well, I did the parents.
That really helps the people narrow
Alien Labs. That would be.
Is it Mitch McConnell OG?
No, it ain't.
Who's?
And
it's
so
Mitch McConnell OG.
No, the Melendez and Biscotti strain cross, and so it kind of has a name like that. But this is a new exotic. You would be commanding prices for this, and so this is the stuff that comes out of like SoCal. Yeah, Biscayne. Bisconte.
I would say it just sounds like bukkake to me too much. That's why I couldn't really
see. That's the problem. Like, there ain't no brands that are interstate, and so like McDonald's started in Chicagoland, Illinois, and so there really aren't any brands that are interstate, because they've all been playing different games with different pricing margins and all this other stuff. Give us the fucking rule book, DEA. Say, like, here we go. Them's the standards, and then you get the state to issue it. And just like they did with hemp, but it's Schedule 3 weed. And so it has to make its own lane for it to make sense. But no other Schedule 3 drug is like weed. So why wouldn't it have its own lane? Weed has its own lane several fucking times in the Controlled Substances Act. It's like, oh, we're talking about weed crimes here? Well, here's this new thing that goes. So if it's so special, make its own regulations for federal compliance with the FDA, so it's interstate legal. And then we can put some Bisconte in our drawers. Of course, they'd probably be grown in Illinois. That's the thing. Like, remember how Budweiser worked? Same with Coca-Cola. They made the shit near you.
Yeah, right. But I just don't get how in my 30 years plus of studying this plant, that why it has so many references and so much. It's just like, so it's been taking us so long to get to this point, right? Like, what point in history, like, was it the source of the bubonic plague? Like, at what did it cause the fucking Great Depression? What about weed that, like, and not just America, but like even in Mexico, there was like some like control of it, right? It has a long history of Indian hemp and all this shit. But like, at what point you're like, oh, these people are having a good time? Fuck them.
Oh, when they didn't like how it smelled. Speaking of, we have a which one do you want to hit next? We have several more stories that we can hit.
Oh, dude, I love talking about weed no matter what. Go for it.
Before we move on, one thing that I feel like hasn't gotten much coverage in the media that I know that you're aware of is the fact that the odor proof provision got struck from the Cannabis Omnibus in Illinois, which I feel is really sucks because that was the only other consumer-focused provision besides the one that GTI got out of the law, allegedly.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. But then, like, if the law smells alcohol in your car, that's enough to get them wondering if something's going on. So if they smell weed, why isn't that fine? You know, or a powerful scent of like freshly burnt weed.
Yeah, I think just smell alone. Like if you're pulling me over for speeding and it reeks of cannabis and I've got a joint, like that's a different story. But if it's just that it smells like weed and it's just that, like I think that you know, it should be able to be used in the calculus as they argued in the Supreme Court. And if I could ask you, Tom, just really quick, since this wasn't addressed via state law, like that means we're kind of banking on the Supreme Court at this point to address this issue, right?
Do you have any idea how long that case has been pending?
A long time. But I guess what I'm asking you is that kind of our last hope at this point for
the gang over at the ISPA's Section Council on Cannabis Law. We were thinking that there it is. They're going to legislatively take care of this, so they don't need to rule.
But that's kind of
turns out that's not the case.
Yeah. Isn't that the bureaucracy that everybody passes the buck? So wouldn't descheduling it or not descheduling?
Yeah, but the judges, except for Clarence Thomas and his motor coaches, the judges usually don't take the money. And so the legislature takes the money because they have to use it to run for re-election. I need a champagne fountain behind me for my re-election campaign. That's what we're going to use the money on. Yeah. Or like with Donald Trump, like, I don't want to stay in prison. Can I use my election funds to like support my hotel usage? So like, where is that line in the sand between you're not allowed to do that with the election money, but you can do this?
Well, it's a funny world where, I mean, that's just kind of part of like business too, where people will do bad things in front of your eyes sometimes, and you're like, isn't that illegal? Like sometimes it's public knowledge.
It's illegal when you do it,
but it's more of like who goes after it, right? Who decides to pursue it? Because all justice is kind of selective, right? Because like we're talking how Frank Rogers, who's still locked up, right? Everybody, even Biden now saying like, I've done this and done that, but what he has done is the bureaucracy part. Because this unscheduling it or rescheduling it. Fuck, I hate this fucking thing. Rescheduling it,
unscheduling requires congressional act, just like it did with hemp.
But the ball is rolling to a degree where then with the farm bill coming in, and then maybe they make a baby. And then you got like reschedule this. Hemp is it's the same damn plant overall.
That's why you have to pick it up. And so like you'll see the video, you'll fall asleep during it because I have to mention a lot of like mechanics of federal law, which you just can't make like YouTube shorts on that. Or like I can't just point at shit like and do like a reel. Like this isn't a workout routine. Right. It's federal law with like, and then it's federal law referencing international law. Yeah. And so it's all this shit moving forward and integrated. But then like there is politics on both sides as well. So it doesn't matter how you've put it together and how well it could in theory work, provided that it would actually be promulgated, because there are rules and shit. And so rules are promulgated. That's where they come from. But anyway, that kind of crap it's just not amenable for the real format. The TikTok is not the place for legislation.
Well, the point to my rambling earlier is that the rescheduling will help overall. This justice thing, this legalization thing that we all want. Like Cole, it's not pretty. The meat's not being, but the bureaucracy side, like learning from this guy, because again, a sweep of the pen is not a thing, but real leadership, and we've got so much going on with the infrastructure and other things. Like I don't know how much more. It's funny, we get a lot of, like, when we talk about, especially Tom, he'll go after Trump shit, and I hold back, but I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I'll let the lawyer do it.
I want to be candid. I know I'm going to look back at some of the things I've said. I'm very young and like idealistic and hopeful, and like I have a lot of runaway ideas, but I really do, like, with the descheduling of cannabis, like it seems like that's such a big win, or what we call hemp. And it's like, I wish we would just expand that line and just deschedule the entire plant. Like, I know it's not that easy, and to your point, Miggy, that you just made, it's just not how it works. And it's but
nor was it what was intended to be descheduled. I want you to understand that it was intended to be descheduled to not get you high, and then the hemp industry just got you high. And so, like, what percentage of the hemp industry is getting you high? 90%, 95%.
High hemp. Such a good term.
Yeah, well, we got a couple of other stories. Let's do a shit that I wasn't expecting, because the marijuana, the terpene one looks good, and the other one, this class action one, I hadn't heard of this.
Which one we got?
A federal class action lawsuit against. Do we have that up? Nope, that's
that's mine.
How about this? No, it's.
I closed mine out.
Blackout, and so I'm not sure about it. It's from the kymcamp.com. Gotcha. But a federal class action lawsuit against Humboldt County's cannabis abatement program makes national news, and it was even on the U.S. mail. So they are still prosecuting people in Humboldt County, it appears, and they're trying to get as much as they can out of weed, and they are arresting people still. So this person, retiree Rhonda Olson, she's got $7 million of fines because someone else grew weed on her property before she bought it.
What?
That's too bad. Yeah, that's what the allegations say.
Okay.
Article, and then Blue Graham, which is, again, his name is Blue, BLU, which makes me ask, where were the parents in this? Was hit with penalties of around $900,000 on unfounded and uninvestigated allegations that he was growing weed in his greenhouse, when really he was growing vegetables for his restaurant.
So was this a state case then, or is this a federal case? I really didn't get over the article.
No, I was working, and so this was not a week that I could read the news.
Okay.
I hope that, and I mean, I semi-retired from the practice of law, but then I still do it, and so with more revenue comes more employees, and then you just have to work on grift, so that the employers are trying to work toward making money for the organization and that company.
Tom's always an entrepreneur.
When you think about it, like, you have to get somebody else to work for you for money and not leave. Good luck with that.
We're gonna have a store, dude. That's the scary part right there. Cole. That's.
I've had a store for years.
This motherfucker. Yeah, but like half your staff is in India. It's different when you're dealing with.
No, we have a Indian contractor who is excellent at the back end. He knows the lamp stack like the back of his hand. Now, granted, people are like, "Who's using that anymore?" I'm like, WordPress. It's like 25% of the internet. So
I kid.
I just want to congratulate you both on finally getting that damn license. I read that correctly, right? You finally
Yes.
actually got the license.
We have a conditional license now. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
We have until May of next year to find real estate. And so we found it. Now we just have to get it zoned. And then we have to acquire it. And then we have to develop it. And so we will be looking for certain partners in the future and have that on shows. But not necessarily this one, because there's just things that you have to do first.
Well, Tom's busy trying to like survive, and I got a 9 to 5. So, there's that. We got to survive. But you have any questions for us about the store? Like
Miggy, are you going to be working remotely? You going to like call in?
Well,
yeah.
I
He's
plan to
in
like
charge
show
of
up.
community engagement.
There
He
we
is
go.
our manager of community engagement. Miggy, I want a farmer's market. I also would like a Corvette show or like an antique car show, like, you know. And so you need to reach out to the community and see what we can do to be good neighbors.
Oh, I definitely go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say sorry. I do have one quick question, and I know you had another story you wanted to get to, but like, how does it feel? Both Miggy and Tom, you've won many licenses, I know, but like, but I'm still asking both of you, how does it feel to have a license? Like, that's pretty fucking cool. Like,
It's
I know it's just
business
conditional, and you still got to do your things, but it's like,
but you know, it's boring.
that's pretty
It's
fucking cool.
it's cool, but it's also boring in a sense of like, you know, if cooking was my passion, right? Like if I was I've always thought about like, oh, it'd be cool to have a diner. But then now you're behind the kitchen, and you're obligated to be at that store all day, right? Like Tom talks about automation, and that's the whole thing about having a brick and mortar. And we hope to have people who are success, their success is going to be our success, right? Like that whole motivational thinking. Like I always hated like the cult people you see out there, but we need that. Like that's something that we're going to build, and fucking there'll be a time when I got to come out, right? Like there's going to be like I can't just do everything on internet. I mean that'd be awesome, but like this is not feasible, and you know it's going to be successful. Go ahead.
No, you're gonna come out, but it's one of those things where there goes another $1.5 million over your head.
Yeah.
You're going to bear that risk. And then, like, again, like Miggy, you might get on a loan, and that I don't think you're going to get on the real estate one, you know, but if you did, it would come with a personal guarantee.
Mm-hmm. That's the thing. We're now an obligation. Yeah. Now, if we fail, everything that we've put
on your ass.
Like that, now, not
I have to pay my loans off. I got out of law school and I had to pay my fucking loans off. And so now it'll be another 1.6 million to pay off, or like that you got to cash flow. And so it's a debt burden, but then like we have people that work on the models for what the right amount of debt is for your cash flow. Do you know what the right amount of debt is for your cash flow and how you can maximize your revenue? No, nobody fucking does, you know.
On top of that, right? Like, so we won this thing on a whim, but I have a day job. I've had a thing that this was all a fluke. Like I with activism and giving a fuck, you know, we changing the law has been a thing that I've been wanting to do forever, and it has been changing, and now I'm a part of it. And now we're gonna I'm gonna have to quit my fucking job and then have the new job. But I mean, that's gonna be the new job.
You are going to have to work for 60-hour weeks. There's a difference.
Exactly.
And so like I would say you keep that fucking money from Uncle Sugar. And again, his name isn't Sugar, it's Gates, but he also Sunjar, no, that he's Google's.
But the whole point is like,
but keep the job. Yeah. And then I'm going to demand that you do scripts and like I'm
but we're gonna have to. I have to devote more. 100%. Like I have to devote more to this
because again, you're going to have a sizable equity position in a cash flow that should have free cash flows of $1.5 million, unless we listen to Cole and then like anybody can open one of these shops, and so we'll just have to fire everybody and sell everything off. Then we'll be in default, and they'll owe somebody $1.7 million because they built a compliant like Illinois dispensary. Go build a compliant Illinois dispensary, hemp peddlers. Do it. There'll be 4 hemp.
I guess my last thought on that whole topic is just I know that business people complain and all those licenses because it is so hard, but the one group of people that aren't complaining are the people that are getting cheap cannabis. You know, people travel to Michigan for that.
No, you have to bring the price down, but then that isn't necessarily you still have to build that shit in Michigan. You just have a lot more people building it. And so then you have a lot more people that are losing a lot more money. And then eventually what you have is you have the Amazoning of cannabis. And so you have one group that's highly capitalized that can bleed everyone else out. And it is not a small business owner.
I will say there is one, I'm about to say something that's going to be controversial at first. There is one type of license cap I support, and Illinois already has it in a part of the law. It's like the per entity ownership. I'm probably butchering the language on this, Tom, but it's like the idea that you can only have 10 dispensaries and a number of cultivation centers. I think it's 3.
Right.
And I do like those caps because it's like, I like the idea of unlimited licenses, but limited ownership so that nobody gets too big, right?
It's funny you say that, though.
It'll still be limits. Like a state can or a municipality can say no. And so liquor licenses are still limited. And you're going to see that aspect of it like happen, but you have to have the regulations first. And so that should happen over time in the sense that they will relax these things, but the industry sucks. And so like, we're going to sell our license then, hopefully before that, because then you're talking about an industry where your profit margins less than 10%.
But that's if like we're going to be in a unique position too. I mean, and again,
cannabis, no. I mean, like then I'm going to go to like industries where the profit margin's 40%, like the practice of law or consulting services.
Well, I'm talking about like now you're talking about like diversifying monies and shit. But like I'm not even there yet. Like I just need the goddamn money to come in first, right? Like
that's not how it works.
But that's the thing about the business side of things is when we're going to open the store, I'll be in a unique position to understand like why is it like since I've been for the past 30 years I've been buying weed that $10 is about the accepted price for a decent gram, right? Like for most people, and as someone who doesn't grow, I'm not a grower. Tom grows, so he understands more about like the cost of newts and to make good plants and all that shit, right? I just know good weed. I'm like, oh, so you tell me how much it costs to make for you to be profitable, right? Like that's how I always did my weed dealings. It was like, how much for the quarter pound? All right, cool. You know, like you made your profit, I hope, because that's the price I bought it off you. Now I'm gonna go break it up and sell it to other people. But like for what people are behind bars for, we hope to be selling that in a day. And it's just overall just how the law is fucked up, right? Like, you know, Frank Rogers, who I talked to the other day from prison, right? Go out and please watch our past episode where I just talked to this guy live from behind bars from New York. That's where he was just really good at business. That's the whole thing. These guys, when I was younger and started building up, I could have been one of those guys, but I decided noped out because I didn't want to get locked up. I didn't want to.
Not good at business. It's not being good at business to get locked up. Like it's not like so. What you're doing is an illegal like enterprise. That's probably not the best business. It's not really a business if it's an illegal enterprise. It's a crime.
But that's what I hate about limited license markets, at least so far, is that the main enforcement mechanism, especially in Illinois, is the criminal law. And that House Bill 4293 would have made unlicensed activity a daily $10,000 fine plus all of those criminal penalties. So it would have like measurably increased the criminalization of cannabis in Illinois. And I would just wish like if we're going to limit licenses for economic purposes, if we could figure out a way to do it without locking somebody in a cage for doing unlicensed activity, because that's like what legalization was supposed to be about.
You're not supposed to. Yeah, you're not supposed to lock them into a cage. But it's like, did you pay your taxes on that? Well, you failed to pay your taxes. That comes with a penalty of $10,000 a day for every day they're not unpaid. And eventually that becomes so heinous of a penalty that it's not a crime, but it may as well be because now they're completely broke. And then hopefully they can declare bankruptcy from that and then kind of learn. But that's what it is. It's that how do you take the outlaw out of an industry based on outlaws? I mean, there was a lot of bootlegging that happened in 13, 14 years of keeping alcohol illegal. But now we're like 80, 90 years deep. Home grow for all is great. Like I love home, and I don't like the definition of hemp where it doesn't include seeds, because that is to go from a seed to what you can use. That takes a lot. It just doesn't happen. Like you don't.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I'm gonna go smoke some seeds.
But we're living in like history right now when it comes to like the actual legalization process, right? Like as much as the farm bill, the previous one that unleashed the Kraken for hemp. Right, and everybody's buying and realize like cannabinoids and this is medicine, and then now we got this rescheduling thing coming up, where like eventually they all like meet. Recently here in Washington State, I just saw a news article where this van there was a shootout, and so like within the investigation of they went to this RV, found all kinds of guns, all kinds of meth, fentanyl, right? You know what they didn't find? They didn't find weed. Like they weren't selling weed in Washington. There's no market out here, right? Like, and if there is, it's a small contingent that's not going to like the homeless camp.
Washington State really walked a tightrope well, in the sense that, again, awarding them by a lottery in a limited way is very smart for reducing crime, reducing exploitation, and we'll probably meet that out here in Illinois here soon. But they also gave away enough licenses to have a full but yet limited market. So you don't need your guy anymore. There are enough stores and there are enough growers that get a license. Like, they will help you. I mean, like, you have some insulation, but if you suck at what you do and have a license, that isn't going to mean that you get to make money. And so, like, I think that sweet spot of the limitation, where it's like, you have a regulatory burden imposed on you. So we think that the industry can support this many licenses if that's one of the line items on their P&Ls, where it's like compliance. So, okay, here's compliance. We've laid that on top of you, and we're going to give you, like, you know, if you're really good, you can get a 40% profit margin. If you suck, you could go broke. And that's kind of the Washington State market.
It's also the role you choose to do, right? Like, I'm kind of glad I'm really glad we didn't win. Well, I don't know how did we win? Can we grow in Illinois? We can't, right?
If you have a med card.
Oh no, but I mean, as far as
for like professionally.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No, we would have to get we could acquire a craft grow license. We'll also be able to win some. There's going to be another 50 at least. They might revoke some in 2 months, and so.
But I don't want to.
There could be,
because I don't know growing. I don't know. Like I wouldn't know where to cut. Like you do, because you grow and you understand all the nutrient stuff. But like the store part, the retail part, fuck yeah, I've been doing that all my life. I've been going to stores everywhere. I can do that. But like,
it's nicer to have the retail than the cultivation. But
but you guys
then it's how many retails. And so, like, if we open where we want to open, there ain't no store for 10 miles.
Yeah. But I'm saying cultivators is what you guys need more to have the price points that we have here for the quality.
Miggy, didn't you start growing weed this past summer? Did you throw some seeds out?
My kitten's killed
him. Kitten killed him.
My kitten
your
killed
cat
him.
Or your kitten?
No, I mean, they're about a year. So, but 2 of them.
Okay.
That was cool.
This is another reason I don't have cats. They eat your weed.
They do. They thought it was a cute plaything. But I tried.
My cats love to eat my weed leaves. It's crazy. I've posted videos on my Instagram. Gotta make sure though, folks, that they don't have trichomes on them, because don't only do it in veg, I guess is my point.
Okay.
Yeah. Cats,
they didn't make it
decarboxylate weed with their stomach acids. No, they can't. They can't. I'm just making shit up. All right, man. Well, speaking of making shit up, let's talk about our last story. It has to do with the industry and projections. And so when they say it's going to be this by 2030, it's not really facts. It's made up projections, but that doesn't mean it's not news. And so we have this story. Federal cannabis shift. The industry is projected to surpass 100 billion by 2030, according to an expert. And this is out of Benzinga. And that expert is coked up chart guy.
Kevin Hart. Is that what it said? Comedian Kevin Hart.
You're like, what?
Comedian Kevin Hart. I still like coked up chart guy, but no, it's not. Green check verified founder and CEO Kevin Hart. No, not that Kevin Hart. He is a frequent speaker at Benzinga Capital conferences, and I am not, because I run a podcast.
I am old enough to remember when they used to say that cannabis, like if it was legalized, would never make a dent into our nation's economy, right? And then what was it like last year we talked about where the one federal bank noted that in the Kentucky, Missouri area, it actually made an impact, like a percentage of their GDP or whatever. So that's pretty cool.
Well, that's kind of how it is. I mean, like, people want to buy weed, and they will continue to buy weed. Now, is it going to be one of those weeds things where they can buy it and it'll make sense for people? No, that we can't have. It's too far away. But one step at a time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to like getting our dispensary open. I just hope we have long enough for us to get the hell out of it then, if it's going to turn into everybody sells weed. Or like the worst thing is the AI 3D printers can just, you hit like bowl please with this type of cannabis and just, shit. I can't compete with that. Yeah.
I'm not really worried about our store though. I think, even because when rescheduling happens, we're going to be a unique spot because just the way the bureaucracy works, right? The regulation process.
It takes forever.
How will that work?
It takes forever.
Yeah. It's not, I know that nobody knows the answer, Tom, maybe right now, but what do you think? Like, since you're going to be, it wouldn't really affect you since cannabis is a recommendation, not a prescription, right? Or would it?
No, I wanted 2911 to pass so that we were hybrid, like Missouri, in the sense that then that would allow us to become compliant with the federal Schedule 3 rules that they'll have, even if Donald Trump wins, I hope. But I'm just kind of worried, like after, like they got rid of thank you for tuning into Cannabis Legalization News. Just your friendly reminder, you have no right to privacy. That's right. Roe v. Wade was overturned over a year ago. You cannot even make a decision on how to treat your own body. Thanks.
Thank you.
And so, like, do you think that Schedule 3 weed is going to be there? What happens if Donald Trump appoints that one guy from SAM? Kevin Sabat will be the drug czar.
Well, again, the leadership. I don't think that leadership's there. I don't know why these guys keep chasing the Orange Julius. I don't know. I mean, like, we could turn this whole debate into like why that guy's bad. But
it's
like,
dogma. It's dogma.
You should have Sam on this show. I would love to connect you with Sam. With people.
Go for it,
Sam. Would you like that?
Yeah, tell him to email me. I'll ignore his email too.
I'm blocked.
Ignore it. I think it'd be awesome to have him on. I'd love to see you guys.
I would ignore it. I would still ignore it. I would like refer him to a Rickroll.
I would chat
as fast as I could. Yeah.
But I think sometimes though,
I would just like, because like I want to fuck with him. Like, I don't agree with what he does. I would ask him where he gets his money and be like, so if I'm going through your W-2s, because I'm assuming that you don't own the place, who's paying those W-2s? And so like, I think it's the old, what was that? Matthew 6:21, where your treasure is, so will your heart be.
Right. No, I get you. Like people who were prohibition's better. And I look at the bigger picture though. Like, what are you trying to enable? And these people like converts the message where it's like, oh, we want to be regulated well. We want cannabis to be regulated right. Well, what is right? And then they throw the fear mongering with like big pharma and big tobacco, and we don't want big cannabis. And it's like you're gonna have that no matter what. There's 3 fucking grocery stores in the world. There's 2 fucking breweries. When Tom and I get into the business, depending on how this works for us in our store, with reinvesting it, do we become a franchise? Do we sell out and just wash away?
Franchise, it's impossible.
Well, in time, not like a week. We still not even. How would it be impossible? Yeah, cookies. I bet we could make something fucking cool.
Cookies does licensing agreements. They don't do franchise agreements. Franchises are impossible because the licensing is just completely batshit different.
Term of art. It's all about term of art.
Place you go. So I've never seen a franchise agreement be able to go from one state to the next. And I've seen some that I'm just kind of like, why? Like, I just laugh at it. And I'm like, wow, those Oklahomans.
Starbucks is kind of one. I've seen them or am I wrong? I've seen them in Colorado, and now they're in Illinois.
That's a multi-state operator. That's different.
Oh, fair enough.
So that's more along the line with cookies, where they're going to have this overarching brand, and then they reach out to people that already have a license, or I don't do it. And so I don't know. I really don't have like brand aspirations for our dispensary. I just don't. But and so we could get a manager that wants to have another whatever brand under control, and then we could interview them and see if they want to like run it, and then we could have them be a sponsor of the show, all that kind of crap. But they'd have to take a reasonable management fee as opposed to an exorbitant management fee. Either way.
Oh shit! It's almost 420.
It's almost 420 again. We've done it. We've spent a good hour and 14 minutes talking with Cole and Miggy in the news. So I think we should just probably wrap it up. That's our show. We're going to leave you on a 420. Cole, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you?
Yeah, go to thecolememo.com or colememo.com. Either works. You can find my podcast there and everything I do. And if I could just give a quick shout out to a project that I've done that I'm really proud of, go to colememo.com/history for my Illinois folks. It's a history into Happy 420. Illinois cannabis activism. I produced like a photo archive that I don't know you can find anywhere else, and some protests that actually happened back in the day on the University of Illinois campus. I interviewed people that participated in those protests, and I'm just really proud of it. So check it out at thecolememo.com/history. And I just want to thank you, Miggy and Tom, again for inviting me back on and for being so supportive of me over the years, and for making one of the best shows about cannabis on the internet. Truly appreciate you all. So
thank you, dude. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you. Yep. And thank you guys, especially the members. The members, they make the credits, and they might even get it to win some crap. So tune in next week.
Hell yeah.